Hello and welcome everyone to the show. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host. Thank you for downloading today's episode. And thank you for being a part of my experience and my journey on this podcast. It's been an interesting journey, that's for sure. And what's happened recently with the change in iTunes is that I'm not getting as much organic traffic as I was getting earlier, when most of you probably stumbled upon this show looking for something, whether it be spirituality or law of attraction or astrology, numerology. I came up pretty high when you put some keywords in, and iTunes doesn't operate like that anymore. So for those of you that are still enjoying the show, if you have anyone that you think might enjoy it, I'd really appreciate you sharing it, because I'm going to be doing some advertising later here in the summer. But I've really benefited from just having great keywords and sort of skirting the system until they changed it with iTunes. So I do recognize that you and I are connected, because otherwise you wouldn't be continuing to listen. And on that note, to keep the show alive, all of them, I've been nominated for the People's Choice Awards in 2 categories, the People's Choice Award and under the category of religion and spirituality. And I would really appreciate a vote. If you have the inclination, if you could take 5 minutes, you do have to sign up and put your email address in and make a password, and then they send you a verification code just to make it legit. And then you can vote, and then that's it. And it takes about 5 minutes if you are on a computer. It might even take 5 minutes if you're on a handheld device, but how you can get there. And the show that has been nominated is Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. So it doesn't really matter which one of the channels you listen to. Basically, Spirit, Purpose, and Energy is representing my whole network at this moment, and definitely would appreciate any support there. So it's jjflazanes.com/vote. Again, that's jjflazanes.com/vote. Voting ends on July 31st. So we have a little bit of time, about a week and a couple of days. So if you can do it and support, that would be awesome, because it really makes a difference for me to be able to produce this show as I continue to do. So a lot of you know that I've been moving, and I wanted to talk about being present in your pain today, because what has been sort of very eye-opening for me is, while Lisa Thomas and I had a session, and she had said to me, you're someone who embraces change. Of anyone I know and have ever known, you are not afraid of change. And that is true until I manifest change that is something that consciously I don't want. And that's the story I've been telling myself. And I've had an interview today that'll be coming next week. You're going to hear from Dr. Dane here. It was a lovely conversation, and it was a really high consciousness conversation, because I could admit that I've been in victim mode, and I'm aware of it. I'm noticing it, and I'm sort of allowing the process to be. And so while I know we're in a Mercury retrograde, and that's going to end soon, hallelujah. Besides that, and then we had a full moon and an eclipse last week. I just feel like the universe is going, like, can you survive this? And here, let me unearth some things you didn't even know were there. And it made me think, we don't actually know how something's going to feel until we're in it. We can hypothesize. And again, as having a background as an actor, you can get pretty close to understanding and being empathetic to pretty much anyone when you understand all of the factors involved in interpreting the situation and how they feel about it based on their relationship to all the parts and pieces and what it means to them. But Jesus, when you're like by yourself in your own life and you're thinking, well, I can handle this. I thought I would be upset. I thought I would be sad when we finally left. But I have literally been telling myself the story and didn't realize all of the emotions underneath the surface that were going to come up. And once we were cleaning up the house last Monday to finally leave, I lost it in a big way. It started and it didn't stop. It didn't stop all day Monday. It didn't stop on Tuesday. It didn't stop Wednesday. Now, there were moments of time I held it together, but at the same time, I had no idea. And it reminded me of back when my ex-husband and I were going to get married, and we talked about the whole name change thing. And I've always been the person who really had no interest in changing my name. I would I always thought I'd hyphenate or add to my name. So when we were asked the question, it left me sort of stunned. And I actually made a choice on the marriage certificate that the minute I did it, I regretted it because I had no idea how it was going to feel. And that was a point of contention for a long time because, of course, he expected me to change my name, and maybe I thought I might add it and use it. And I just, when I went to do it, there was a disconnect. I didn't feel like it was the right thing. But I couldn't have known that before doing it. And I think oftentimes we don't acknowledge where we are when we're there. We over-intellectualize it, we analyze it, we numb it, we eat it, we sleep it. There's a balance between sulking and asking for attention and being an observer and continuing on anyway. And that balance is different for everyone. Again, if you're a right brainer, a lot of times right brainers sort of milk being depressed because it's easier to feel that than to pull yourself up out of it. And for a left brainer, it's easier to numb it than to be in it because most left brainers are control freaks and have this fear of emotion because you think you're going to die and you have no idea what to do because you just haven't given yourself the space to actually break open and just be there. Just let it pass. Let the storm have its way and then let it pass. Again, our corks will float. Our energy systems will come back to wellness. We will come back to and recalibrate into neutral, if not positive, if just let go. And I know a lot of you work full-time jobs or your parents, and so you've got more things on your plate than I do in a way. And you've more distractions and more places where you have to be on. And so you don't give yourself the time and space to break open. You don't give yourself the time and space to cry or process a feeling in a way where you don't have to get up and do anything. You don't have to be anywhere for somebody. You don't have to produce anything or perform or be productive. And I think that's what people resist is feeling not productive, feeling not purposeful. Emotions don't have a purpose except to teach us about what's going on inside of us. So I would recommend that if you have back pain, indigestion, IBS, digestive issues, anxiety, depression, knee pain, if you have chronic conditions that have not gone away, that you're being called to sit in your pain, not to make it worse, but to acknowledge it, to observe it, and then to allow yourself to release it, and then to ask for help. One of the things I manifested today, it's literally I had to work up to even having an interview, and I'm normally more productive, and there's part of me that had a little guilt and shame about that today because I'm still surrounded by boxes and I want the boxes to be gone and I want Doug to be proud of me when he comes home to see how much work I've done. And I have all these stupid expectations that I've placed on myself, which don't help, by the way. And I'm sitting within all these boxes and I do the interview and it's a great interview and you'll hear it next week. It's Dr. Dane and he worked with me after we were done and I was feeling so good and in alignment because of the kind of conversation we were having. It reminded me why I do what I do. And some of the things that we talked about this place, which I'm not going to get into right now. We made a joke on the show about me recognizing that I was being in victim mode. I know I've worked with a few of you recently who have resisted the idea that you've been a victim. And we all embody the victim triangle pretty much every day. It's how long do you stay there and do you get stuck there? And are you conscious and aware of it? And can you pull yourself off of it? Are you in belief that life is working for you? Or do you believe life happens to you? I'm at the point in my podcasting career that I've done so many shows on the Fit to Love podcast. I've stopped numbering them because I did season 1 and then season 2 and I took a break. And so for Fit to Love, I have, I don't know how many hundreds of shows, but back in the first season and into the little bit of the second season, I did a series of 4 shows with Lynn Forrest. And Lynn Forrest is famous. She has something called the Reality Formula. and she's famous for working with the drama triangle or the victim triangle. And so I had her on 4 shows. And you can get ready to write this down, because part of today's episode is just to remind you how to go back and listen to these if you haven't heard them. When I rebranded the Fit to Love podcast into the 6 different shows, the one show I still haven't published is called The Emotional Side of Wellness. And that was my Thoughtful Thursdays, which is where these shows existed. So that's why they haven't been repurposed yet, because I haven't put up the show. Now, I could repurpose them on Spirit, Purpose, and Energy, and I probably will. But in the meantime, it starts with episode 121, and that's season 1, Transforming Drama into Peace. Episode 134, Are You a Victim, Rescuer, or Persecutor? Episode 157, Healing Patterns from Childhood and Family. And then season 2, episode 32, Dealing with Betrayal. So those shows, I'll just tell you the numbers again. Fit to Love, season 1, episode 121, 134, and 157. And then season 2, episode 32. Those are the 4 shows that I did with Lynn Forrest. So if you've worked with me, or you've had an inclination, if you ever tell yourself, I feel like this because he, she, it, they, blah, 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 we're in victim. Okay. And it's okay. And it's not, you can acknowledge that you're in victim mode. The question becomes, when do we release that? When is it time? What's the process we have to go through to get to the other side of it? So sitting in your pain, being present in your pain. Again, it's the balance. I don't want you to wallow. I don't want you to keep yourself stuck, but I also don't want you to avoid. And I want us to allow the transformation. It's the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. There's a struggle inside that cocoon when the caterpillar needs to become the butterfly. It has to break through that shield in order to be released and transformed. And so I just want to make sure the walls of your cocoon aren't too thick. And I want to make sure that you are actually aiming to release yourself from the situation, the story, the conversation, the patterning, and the belief systems that might keep you stuck as a caterpillar or as a trapped butterfly in that cocoon, because that isn't fun. So that's all my update is for today. Again, I mentioned the voting. The last thing I'll mention is something else that's going on is a free webinar that I'm doing on the Mind, Body, Soul method of manifestation. And that'll be September 5th at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, 8:30 Eastern time. You get some gifts if you come live to the webinar. Again, that's Thursday, September 5th, and you can register at jjflazane.com/manifesting, MANIFESTING, manifesting. But if you do anything today, I'd prefer you vote first, and then there's time to sign up for the webinar later. But please go to jjflazane.com/vote. Please support the show. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for all your love on Instagram and Facebook, and I look forward to connecting with you next week.